Hello everyone, you're watching New World News. I'm Jamie Starr, and on this episode we're going to get into examining some left versus right memes, the stereotypes they represent. We're going to talk about if they actually have any truth behind them, and the overall way that it's crazy how politics and the act of signing things into law, which are generally 1,000-page documents, can be summed up with a sentence or two and a picture, and how bad this is for society as a whole. So to start it off, we see the first picture is the one I had on the start of the social justice top fails of 2015. Ugly is beautiful, free speech is hate speech, independence is a myth. And, you can definitely see that behind the whole social justice movement, ugly is beautiful, that can be summed up in the move against fat shaming and everything. Morbid obesity can definitely be unhealthy, and to some extent there is always room for improvement. This whole idea of complete narcissism is definitely not a healthy or a beautiful thing. Free speech is hate speech. That one's pretty obvious. There's a whole bunch of words and phrases and now microaggressions. And independence is a myth. This one I kind of believe to some extent, only because if you look at history in general, there's always people trying to govern other people. So independence is definitely only accomplishable on an individual basis. So let's go next. Next we have, Mitt doesn't like to talk about how he has helped others because he sees it as a privilege, not a political talking point. And I guess that was said by his wife. And this is kind of a conservative thing where it definitely seems on the right side of things like to be dealt with as far as laws in general, and you can do things to help everyone as a whole, whereas on the left with the identity politics aspect, there always seems to be well, we're doing this to help this specific group of people, and you can see it as they kind of try to use it as a recruiting tool, where it's like, oh, well, we did this for the LGBT community, we did this for blacks, we did this for Hispanics, we did this for women, we did this for, and there aren't very much efforts to help everyone as a whole. So next. Let me translate what you heard in Obama's speech last night into dollars so you know how long your generation will be enslaved in debt. This is very true about the free college idea, because you are basically starting these debts that everyone's going to be paying forever. Their children will be paying for, and it's crazy that people think this stuff is for free. I think it's a lot easier for people to just cover themselves individually than this whole idea that we're all just going to pay a little bit forever for everyone. But people don't think that way. Here we have a meme. We're going to see this picture, and it's funny because on Facebook, I tried to poll my friends before doing this video, and I had asked, I know the left constantly accuses people on the right of being racist, sexist, bigot, homophobes, so on and so forth. We all know the lengthy list of character attacks. And I asked, what's the stereotype the right really sees of on the left? Because the worst name I could think of calling someone would be a socialist or a communist. And they now have a socialist running for president, so it kind of loses its derogatory connotation. So we do have this, which a friend of mine wrote me back and said that the right sees people on the left as dirty, lazy hippies who don't want to work and are against capitalism. And this is obviously the stereotypical representation of that. We have down with big corporations, owns brand name jeans, iPhones, and drinks Starbucks, uses abortion as birth control, is an animal activist because all life is sacred. Your rights end where my feelings begin. And these are definitely sentiments that we see argued for all the time. I always try to point out the iPhone idea because it kind of negates everything. I think the internet is the great equalizer of the future and gives so much opportunity to people. Obviously, a lot of these people were born with it, whereas I wasn't. I was one of the last of my friends to switch from dial-up to high-speed cable modem. So I remember what it was like without the internet, without text messaging and all of this stuff, and it's something that people are taking for granted. And the iPhone thing, iPhone using basically slave laborers in China and having to put up the suicide nets, it obviously makes a lot of the activism and fighting for inequality and everything seem ridiculous when you're typing it all through an iPhone. The abortion thing, you do see this. How could you hurt an animal in any which way, or, and then they don't seem to have the same regard for life, and the your rights end where my feelings begin. This is obviously safe spaces and such. And I finally saw the South Park safe space thing, and I'll tell you, that's definitely crazy that a lot of things that you saw in comedy beforehand, like Dave Chappelle and the skit about consent forms for sex, have now become reality. Conservative Logic 101, appearing on a comedy show, joking with comedian is unbecoming of a president and diminishes the office, unless held by a Republican. Forever throwing shit at the wall. And this just shows, obviously both sides. The president has become more of a pop culture celebrity than a leader of a country. I mean, you need to relate through people. Television is how we do it. But definitely not right to be accusing of one thing and okay of the other. Socialism is bad for our country. Unless public schools, the highway system, fire departments, police, military, postal service, power grid, and public airwaves. This is, I saw Adam Kokesh in a video recently say it's funny because when people argue for government, and that's the thing, I'll tell people all the time, we need to get rid of all this government, and people will be like, oh, well, schools, highways, this, and that, and it's like, okay, but you are basically saying, as Adam Kokesh summed up, saying that if you can't do it without government, that means you can't do it without pointing guns at someone's head. Because that's how they enforce participating in all of this. I've also said, though, I kind of like the idea of a socialism system, say, modeled after Kickstarter, where you could have it for smaller communities. The community could propose something. We all want this road going from point A to point B. And then you just have everyone in the community donate for it and not have it be where people are penalized for not doing it, but it obviously won't get done unless the whole amount ends up being accumulated. I also think at this point, businesses have enough money, like Walmart, where if they needed a specific highway going from one state through another in order to make shipping easier for them, they would just pay for it themselves. They have enough money. Within the conspiracy circles, you even hear about underground tunnels going from one point of the country to another. So if there's any truth to that, obviously private contractors and companies have already gone ahead and done it without the public knowing. Liberals in 1960s, question authority, don't trust government, think for yourself, you're responsible for you. Liberals 2013, obedient to democratic authority, undying loyalty to the government, let others think for you, make others responsible for your life. And that is definitely where the paradigm has gone. It's definitely been a mental regression of sorts amongst these people. And that's one of the things I think is why people are, besides overall tribalism and rooting for a team, it continues this constant one authority figure standing over you, telling you what to do. I see it. It goes from the school to the home when you become older with the television newscasters, and then our presidents address us in the same way, where it's just constantly, hope maybe there's less of that in the 60s, who knows. But I guess it's easier for people. When I was poor and I complained about inequality, they said I was bitter. Now I'm rich and complain about inequality, they say I'm a hypocrite. I'm starting to think they just don't want to talk about inequality. That's from Russell Brand, which I definitely agree with that quote. They don't want to talk about it or the real causes of it or how the people who make money actually do make money, because it's not through working shifts. It's through making smart business investments. Preschool for everyone. Are you kidding me? We don't have the money for that. This is just crazy talk. I think it's immoral. Fox Business Channel host commenting at State of the Union. I beg to differ. 16 million children in the United States, 22% of all living in poverty. That's immoral. I think to sum up both of this, it's basically the whole thing about leftist arguments is that there's always a sense of immorality to it on both sides. On both sides of this. Whether it's paying for preschool or whether it's paying for taking care of other people and their poverty, it still is on the basis of stealing from people. And, you know, again, you see statistics where it talks about the amount of food that goes wasted in a day, and I see it from working in a restaurant, but there's not an easy access way to make sure all of that gets spread around so that other people eat it. Instead, you have the whole food businesses highly regulated. They've started, in certain places in Florida a few years ago, they were stopping people from feeding the hungry and the homeless out in parks. And they have put so many restrictions on how this can all be done that the overarching bureaucracy just starts to perpetuate the problem. So, either way, stealing from people is immoral on either ends of this, and I think there are better ways of dealing with these problems. Oh, you're a peace-loving anti-war liberal. Tell me all about your support for the guy drone bombing children in Pakistan. And this, you know, typical hypocrisy. But the same could be said about Bush. Bush was launching wars. There's other reasons for these wars that go far beyond oil that people are not even scratching the surface of. Conservative women. You can take your Marxist feminist dialect and shove it. That's definitely a funny picture. Okay, kids, time to play What's the Difference? This man was praised for his creative form of dissent, was awarded college credits, was glowing profiled by the New York Times, and had a vegan sandwich named after him in his hometown, Seattle. This man was given 4 to 6 years in a federal penitentiary for various hate crime violations, 24 months of sensitivity programming, was expelled from Columbia University, and has a new crime bill named after him. You know, with this picture, I don't know if there was a necessary incident where you had a student. I assume this is a student doing an art project and doing a mock hanging of the president, and it must have been done, you know, showing the differences in policies and how they react one towards the other. Again, I don't know if this is a real event. It would have been interesting because it's obviously, you see the difference in the pictures. Looks like it's photoshopped. But maybe it's just the highlighting the difference in the law, but it's definitely true. You see and a friend of mine mentioned this on Facebook where he was saying something about Obama, the Fed, and the recent thing. I don't think Obama has any involvement in the Fed or what they just did in terms of the economy. He probably just gave a speech and thumbed up it. And, you know, as for him, you didn't build your business. So, you know, he claims he was responsible for killing Osama bin Laden, and he was not a Navy SEAL team. So, he was saying, though, that anytime he mentions him, people always get butthurt. And I told him, I said, the reason for this is because Obama is so witty, and it's why people like him, but he's always taking cheap shots, always making little jokes, and if you want to say the war on Christmas is not real, then, you know, look at that as one of his cheap shots. I'm going to win the war on Christmas. And they also portrayed him in the media unlike any other president with these glowing halos and Superman, and made him out to be something far more than a president. So I think that's why whenever anyone can take a shot at him, they do it, because he was just so over-glorified that sometimes you want to just humanize him some more as being like, no, he's fucking up, he's one of us, what were you expecting from him, Krypton? So, next picture. Hard work is the only way to succeed in America. Gets a job at dad's company. Okay, this is obviously anti-Republican thing, and I don't think there's anything wrong with this, though. I mean, you can, wherever you get a job, I mean, this just shows the whole thing, though. Like, under Republicans, there tends to be more incentives for business and less restrictions, especially if you want to go all the way on the, the thing is the most, I feel like the most extreme person on the right being like a Ron Paul figure, and the most extreme person on the left being, a toss-up between Obama socialism or Bernie Sanders socialism. The main difference is the one just wants to get out of your way and just let everyone do what they're going to do because you actually have enough faith in humanity to think that. And then on the socialist side, it's basically, we're going to point guns at everyone's heads, tell them how we're going to do this because we know better than you. And so again, there's nothing wrong with working for your parents. To learn who rules over you, simply find out who you are not allowed to criticize. Voltaire. I think this obviously shows who's in power, and I think this I think is very relatable to the idea of white privilege and this sort of white power system, patriarchy, whatever you want to call it, that people see, because I feel like if it was there, and if it had the power that's attributed to it, it would stomp out all this dissent. Like, it would not allow this. So, the media is not run by, white old men on one hand. You're obviously allowed to criticize straight white men all day long. They obviously don't have the power attributed to them. And this is one of the things I try to bring up when people talk about the racial systematic thing, where I'll say to them, okay, if you believe the media, the school system, the government, and all of this has this white supremacy complex, then why is the media in your corner? Why is the government in your corner? And why is the education system in your corner? Because if you think it's there to harm you, then why are you believing what it's taught you all along and what it's encouraging? Like, I think it's one of those psyop ideas where you have like a Al Sharpton, basically, if you look at what Dick Gregory says, every time there's one of these shootings, you have these people who come out and they say, well, where are all the black leaders? Where are the community leaders? Where are the leaders? And the problem is the being led around. And that's the main issue, where there's more racism in this idea that black people need to be led around by the Al Sharptons and the Jesse Jacksons and all of the people constantly trying to rile them up via emotions. There's more racism in that. The idea that they don't know what's best for them, they don't know how to run their communities, and they won't be able to take care of themselves. Because that's the idea on that side of the corner. So, next. Liberal Logic 101, parents homeschooling their children, child abuse. Government school teachers forcing their children to participate in gay pride parades, education. So, this does just kind of show, again, the one side claims to be liberal, and they're only tolerant of their side of things being taught, and completely intolerant of homeschooling and such. I think, crackdown on homeschooling and all this stuff, there are common grounds between the two, like vaccinations for schools. Some people would not like that, but, so. Fox News, comfort the comfortable, afflict the afflicted, all acorn all the time, illegal, GOP talking points. Okay, this is just kind of showing Fox News, they're definitely your standard Republican side of the thing, though. Although I don't think most conservatives and everything don't really, I don't feel like relate with their ideas because they're very pro-war. and a lot of people are not pro-war. And again, that's one of the common grounds. I think that both sides can, join together and say, okay, well, we don't want to be bombing shit and fucking shit up like we have been, so common ground should come from that. I'm a conservative now. Until recently, I was pro-abortion, pro-global warming, pro-governmentally mandated medical insurance, pro-minimum wage, pro-bailout. So, and that just shows the main candidates are always generally owned and paid for. Whoever, you'd be for one thing, and then if you get a bigger donation to go another way. That's how it is. That's why we do not need these people leading us. The reason propaganda works is that most people are too involved or too stupid to recognize it as propaganda. People claim to understand the bias and filter it out, but that's absurd. Of course they don't. Ann Coulter. That's very true. People don't realize that everyone has something they're trying to convince you of. They're always trying to bring you a little step closer to their side of the fence. This, again, is what I said. If we want to believe that all the systems in place have a sense of white supremacy running through them, then why do we believe them when they're telling us, to act against it or to do something in its favor? Alfonso Raquel. If a brown person can boast brown pride, but a white person can't boast white pride, then that's not equality. Well, that's a very true statement. What if I told you that a government-funded project targeted conservative Twitter users and had their accounts suspended? Again, this has actually happened. The Obama administration has been using money to go after its political enemies. How liberals think. Things I don't like should be banned, but things I really like should be paid for by others. And that is, the logic towards things like hate speech, but wanting other people to pay for things they find immoral, like abortion. So, Hillary 2016, because what America needs is a vindictive old rich lady with a penchant for lying, alcohol problems, a philandering husband, and a tangled heap of corpses behind her. And this is definitely true about Hillary. She is a hot mess. And I've said it before, especially over the questioning of Gaddafi, when she said, "We came, we saw, we killed him." She should have been put in a straitjacket right then. She should have been put under mental evaluation, like as if she were one of the soldiers who was actually in combat. Because that's the thing. These people want to claim these responsibilities. Well, then they should be held under the same standards that our soldiers are. Promised middle-class tax relief, instead passed largest tax increase in American history. This is definitely true. All of these free healthcare, free school, none of this is free, and we need to reform the economy. Fixing the economy, they say this all the time, we need to fix the economy, we need to get it on track. This shit is a runaway train. And you need to fix the problems with the currency before you can fix the economy at this point. Give me a fish he eats for a day. Give a man a welfare check, a free cell phone, food stamps, Section 8 housing, a 6-pack of beer, and he'll vote Democrat for the rest of his life. This is the, it's obnoxious because this is, again, one of these politically incorrect truths to even mention. That when Lyndon B. Johnson, who was a white supremacist, the Democrat Party was the original party of the KKK. It still is. The KKK held rallies to support Obama because they support his policies. They support socialism and the idea that government's going to give you everything you need because it's only going to give you baseline. The idea of government providing these things, and people see this, people who live in Section 8 housing, I had family living in Section 8 housing, they are not happy with it. It is not a good lifestyle. These places are called projects, and we just have to wonder, whose project was it? This was a plan. and there were quotes about this where he said, I'm giving all these people all these things. We'll have these niggers voting Democrat for the next 200 years. And it's again where things have to be solved throughout another means. Government dependency is not a good thing. It's not in combination with the currency, because it's only going one direction, and it's going to collapse. Holy White, and this year's Oscars nominations are, there was an article in the LA Times written by, I want to say Ben Stein, but not the Ben Stein any of us know, and it was basically asking the question, do Jews run Hollywood? And the conclusion, after he went through all the movie production studios and everything, was yes, they do. And he doesn't care what people say about it or anything like that, but they do. And so I think this is again, showing that this finger pointing at white people as a whole is completely misdirected. When you have a Jewish-controlled entertainment industry, why it's being accused of being wholly white is you are not asking the right people for accountability. Oh, you're a Republican? Tell me how increasing military, denying gay rights, their rights, and making abortion legal shrinks down government. Again, both sides have been going to war. I think most people on the Republican side aren't looking to deny anyone's rights. They just much rather see government out of marriage. And they don't want to see the government forcing churches to do things they object to, and making abortion illegal. Well, that should just be done on morality. The Republican heritage. So you want to be a conservative. And here they go through, I'm not going to read all of these, a whole bunch of things about tax breaks, things about the troops being denied healthcare and services. And this, we can say Bush was a bad president. None of these guys are doing anything great. This thing has been going the wrong direction for so long that there really isn't much you can do to fix it by continuing this way. This is why I don't vote as well, because it's just not worth it. You're placing your bet on a rigged game. George W. Bush put people in Gitmo and killed terrorists with drones. War criminal. Put people in Gitmo and killed terrorists with drones. Responsible world leader. Democrats spent the past 150 years enforcing Jim Crow, imposing segregation, applauded lynching, etc. Cares for black people. Republicans spent the past 150 years opposing Jim Crow, fighting against segregation, trying to stop lynching, hates black people. And this just shows how everything's been switched around. And it was done with the welfare thing, where the Republicans, which was the party of the civil rights, Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King, and everyone, now they're portrayed as this hate group, and the Democrats, for whatever reason, are these champions of minorities. Dying of natural causes at 43, in this case means God decided someone needed to shut the fuck up forever. This, I believe, is a picture of Andrew Breitbart, who had that footage of Obama in college leading a protest and died like the day he was going to release it. That's definitely very shady. In the U.S., minimum wage is $7.25 per hour, and a Big Mac costs $4.56. In Australia, minimum wage is $15.96 per hour, and a Big Mac costs $4.62. Tell me how raising the minimum wages will raise prices. The only explanation I can see for this is if Australia, and you could be comparing an apple to an orange right from the beginning. But my guess would be is that McDonald's gets subsidy money, and minimum wage is funny because people don't realize when the government's arguing for your minimum wage to get increased, they're arguing for their minimum wage to get increased. They take a third. So always remember that. You're not getting that extra money. You're sharing that extra money with the person who's fighting to get you this other money. That may be how it wins. Maybe that's why people feel like they're on this team. I don't know. It very well could be, but I don't support having a minimum wage at all in general. Tea Party conservatives rely on childish name-calling, have an overactive imagination, think they're the center of the world. Can't share, can't spell, shouldn't be allowed to dress themselves. And this, I think, shows liberals, one of their things is this character attack, where even the other day I got into a conversation with a kid online, and there was a lot of this, people like you, this one drives me crazy. If you talk too much, if you're having a conversation with someone at any given point in time, and they could have written a fucking mile-long thing, but at any given point in time, they will criticize you for saying too much. And I think that is the most craziest thing, because it's like you could have someone completely dismantling an argument, and then at the end of it, they'll just be like, damn, look at all that shit you said going on for a mile or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, as if having it, and of course it's always followed by a LOL, JMLKSMHA, like some fucking acronym that it's like, okay, you're insulting the person speaking in English, having complete statements and backing them all up, and then you're talking in some fucking idiot code, and you want to sit here and try to launch character attacks? Oh my god. So, and that's the thing, shouldn't be allowed to dress themselves. Like, yeah, some people dress stupid, but if you honestly, like, accepted everyone, you would just look the other way. It's childishness overall, whether it comes from one party or the other, is a huge fucking issue. In the U.S., there are about 6 million more people looking for jobs than there are jobs available. U.S. multinational corporations employ more than 20 million people inside the U.S. By outsourcing jobs, 2.3 million people in 2011, which corporations influence lower wages across the board. Republican politicians think these free market employee tactics are good for the country, which is what they cite as their refusal to both raise the minimum wage and strengthen pay equality. What do you think? The marketplace decides what the wages are. The minute you set up fairness hours to determine what wages are, you are giving away freedom. And that is definitely true. And I think it's so crazy that you can say something factual, like Rand Paul is saying, and that the left are so, like, blinded by this idea that freedom and independence means the government doing everything for you. Like, they don't understand what freedom means. They really just see life as the freedom to choose between, Pepsi or Coke or Burger King or McDonald's. Like, they have no concept that actual freedom and the founding of this country of rebellion over things like taxes, religious freedom, and again, the vaguer details of it all, like, are really good founding principles for a free and open society, and that's why America has had so many innovations and everything, and it has progressed so much farther, and we've lost that edge. And the marketplace setting up wages the moment, yeah, you're giving away freedom. That is fact. So the idea that a liberal can try to, like, present that, and it's like from their cult mindset, they're like, I don't know how you can try to turn a fact around like that, but that's, propaganda, I guess, and the tribal difference between the two. Maybe we should separate North and South again. I know I'm always saying this, that we should send these anti-gun people send them to England. Send them to Australia. Send them somewhere they'll be happy instead of trying to ruin other people's happiness. Or let's separate North and South. Guns and no guns. I think at one point you had different states, and there was a saying, vote with your feet. But you didn't have this giant overarching federal government bossing everyone around. And this is why the presidency, I guess, is such a... They have to do what they do with it, because this guy's fucking running the show, or the people behind him are. But it's... just, I wish... separate the crazy people on one side. Let's split it up east and west this time. Maybe switch it up a little bit different. And just let the people go on whichever side they want. Agree not to fight. Put up a wall, don't put up a wall, whatever you want to do. But the idea of infringing on everyone's shit is the whole issue. And it's why it gets so polarized, because that's at the basis of all the leftists. You know, they can only go so far, and they got to keep the government going. The power of the people is much stronger than the people in power. I guess. I mean, unless if they have fucking crazy laser weapons. And, yeah, you know, that's one of the things I've been thinking about most. We're in a day and age where there's, like, the shit that was shown on TV for the Jetsons and stuff is now reality. Like, there are laser weapons and sound cannons, and they're talking about implanting people with chips and fucking having the internet in our brain, so you have all this fucking... You know, endless, you're Neo in the Matrix, and people are still arguing about tribalism. There's like a next level shit's going on in the world, and people are concerned with fucking craziness. What's behind the Ferguson training exercises in martial law to destabilize the community, divide the community, invade the community, and to control the community? Yes, but because of the day and age we live on, it gets projected on everyone else. And here's the reason why. Is because you have a culture where when an issue like this happens, because we're all interconnected on this digital shit, and it's like up to the minute, people are then, you know, if someone's like, oh my god, why, like, this is awful, yeah, why are we now bringing in, oh, well, this is a sign of America and the state of America and, you know, everything from civil rights till now, this, and that. It's just like the capitalizing on tragedy and then the projecting it onto society as a whole to then finger point and everything like that. They're doing it to wind up communities and to create this sort of clash of civilizations where everyone is finger pointing at the next guy over everything from immigration now to the border and the attacks, and then just still being told that America needs to just basically be overrun. And this whole thing with the election, if there's even going to be one. Damn Mexicans, they're destroying this country. This is definitely true, but the thing is I think there's a lot of numbers that show that this actually undercuts black communities more so than the white communities. Like, yes, it helps really big corporations and people, you know, who are using them as cheap nannies and everything like that. But you also see it because they're living amongst the black communities more so, where they're taking away their jobs, not so much the middle class white jobs, because most of them, you know, the language barrier would stand in the way of. So it's one of those things where it gets racially skewed. Pro-vaxxers freak out after learning about aborted fetal tissues in popular food and drinks. Blatantly ignores the fact that they're in most vaccines. This is true. Most vaccines, I did a thing on vaccines. Most of them are cultured on animal or human cells and stuff. And that's how the religious exemptions work, where there are specific verses in both the Bible, I assume, and the Quran, and the Torah that object to them. So you just gotta write them and present those. Birth control, ban it. Abortion, ban it. Gay marriage, ban it. Guns, look, banning things never works. People will find a way to get them. I don't think anyone's trying to ban birth control. They just don't want to pay for it. I don't think anyone, again, the thing with Planned Parenthood is about defunding. Gay marriage, I don't know if it trying to actively be banned. I thought people wanted it to be a states issue, but yeah, banning things in general, I don't think is, you shouldn't allow everything. All lives matter now, stay the hell out of my country. I took this off a friend's Facebook, and this I wanted to focus on the fact that the Bible gets brought into everything, because I think it's a cheap shot that the left does, and it's what Obama does it, where they try to use the Bible when it's opportune, whereas they will basically say, you have to be compassionate, you have to care because of Jesus, and you want to be a good Christian, so you should open your heart and care about everyone. And then when you say something about gay marriage, the Bible says, man shouldn't lay with another man or whatever, they will say, the Bible's intolerant, it's hateful, that's hate speech, whatever. So they use it to kind of, they will persecute it in one breath and try to bend your wrist with it in the other. This, again, it's illegal immigration, and this is the crazy thing about the left, where I see an ideology of complete lawlessness. The self-righteousness and the morality supersedes everything else. Like, there really is the idea, like, we need this big government to protect us from people stealing from you, bullying you, and being violent against you, and taking what's yours. And we need this all so that we can bully you and be violent towards you and take what's yours. And the left sees it half the time, where they object to the police doing it, but they don't see how they're also, like, when they're enforcing it, it's fine. Okay. Roman Catholicism is so much more progressive than Islam. I just can't imagine having to wear those ridiculous hijabs or burqas. This, I think, is great, because it does show that all religions on some level have an aspect of this, and I think there is a politicized view of Islam. I mean, there's a radical section of Judaism. There's, the Zionist Jews or whatever. There's, like, Westboro Baptist group, I guess, and I assume there's other churches like that. And then there is Islam, and then there is radical Islam, and I'm sure there's Buddhism, and who knows, maybe there's radical Buddhists. Maybe they're like Dragon Ball Z characters. You never know. But it's so crazy that they play on people's ignorance with all of that. And the other thing with ISIS, though, is ISIS is not, it doesn't represent Islam. I mean, that's maybe what's brought them all together, but you see that with terrorist groups and, even cults, where there's a underlying philosophy. But they have been, trained and funded by the West. So you're dealing with a proxy army, and it's the open borders thing and all this other stuff going on. It's also coincidental, and I just hope, I wonder if when we look back on all this, are we going to be like, oh, was this a big whoopsie daisy, or are we going to be like, oh no, they opened the border up so that so that we could import all these people? Because I'll tell you what, if I had an army and I wanted to go after America, which I don't know who's directing ISIS or what their end game is with all of this, but if you were to want to invade America, like a Red Dawn scenario, open border is great. Like, and I don't see why people don't, like, this is just like not locking your front doors at night. Why do you lock your front doors at night then? And people don't see it like that whatsoever, and they are so shielded from that, where they really, like, and it's just, I don't know. Like, I completely agree with people on the left when they bring it up, being like, oh, well, we destroyed their country. Yeah, we did, and don't you think they're kind of resentful? And the other thing is also, if America is so bad for immigrants and colored people, and I bring this up in general, colored people in general, why do they want to come here? I mean, I think there's so much circular logic on the leftist way of thinking, where it's like, I don't see how you can be fighting for all these minorities and these groups to come here, and then on the other hand, constantly be saying that, that this place is also so bad for them. Why is there somewhere better that they can go? Maybe we should facilitate that. Maybe maybe they'd all end up having a higher quality of life in Brazil or something. I don't see how this place can be so bad, but everyone should come here as well. What are they coming for? Is your way of life great? Mine isn't. There's supposedly this 1% that's doing really well, and supposedly the rest of the 99% isn't awful. So why are they looking to inflate that? And they don't see that end of it either. That, okay, if there is this big wage gap that you talk about, then why are we trying to add to the numbers? Like, misery loves company, I guess. So Fox News is conservative propaganda and lies because MSNBC said so. Yeah, and they both are standing there pointing the finger at one another. That could go either way. But if something blows up, they're both going to step right in line and say, let's go get the bad guys. Democrats, party of tolerance. Unless you disagree with them, then it's shut the fuck up, you lying racist hater. Pretty much, we've all seen that. I saw a thing the other day, a friend of mine posted a thing being like, if you support Trump, that's code for he's a racist and I am too. And I pointed this out in the Melissa Harris Perry video where they were saying, when Mitt Romney ran, they tried to say welfare was a code for black people. And they do this where they think they're so intelligent that rather than people talking about what they're honestly talking about, they come up with these things where they say, that's a code, he means this, and when he said this, he didn't mean this, and that's why they can see something like that Rand Paul quote about, setting up a czar about wages, it limits freedom, and because they've been inducted into this cult and think everything means something else, they just see it as something completely different. Beck's fascism documentary helps Fox's mission to make average Americans stupid enough to vote Republican. This is one of those things where, again, if you look at the Republican Party now, and I consider myself having a conservative ideology towards things, and the Republicans just happen to have the conservatives within them. It's not that I am a straight for one party or another. I don't think a two-party system is the way that things should be done in the first place. I'd much rather the internet be declared a human right and direct democracy. I think, you hear the left say that the founders couldn't imagine high-powered machine guns. I bet they did, but I bet they didn't imagine the internet. And I think because of that very fact, and like I said, the internet being the great equalizer, I think maybe things should be updated for the internet. But watch Fox News, Stockholm Syndrome, self-loathing, repressed sexuality, fear of others, selfishness, willful ignorance, greed. Facts have liberal bias, so don't listen to facts, don't identify with other working people, identify with bankers and CEOs. This, as I mentioned, the news system is owned more so by liberal Jews. Ben Shapiro actually did a thing where he wrote, I think, a book about it, where he was going around to different news stations and casting different shows and basically being discriminated against for being a conservative. So a lot of the stuff coming from the one side, only 6 or so corporations own all news channels. So you're not going to find a source of news or opinion or anything like that that isn't outside of a limited, narrow span, unless if it's outside of the television, because all of those channels are owned by very few people. So, again, the internet is more of a chance to hear someone with a actual different set of views. Liberal Logic 101, typical liberal logic. If I accuse you of judging, that doesn't mean I'm judging you. If I deride you and call you names, that doesn't mean I'm being hateful. If I refuse to listen to anything you have to say, that doesn't mean I'm being closed-minded, because that would be hypocritical. And I'm definitely not hypocritical. There are just different rules for me than you. Yeah, that is true. This is, one of the things that radical feminism has kind of gotten into, where it's kind of gone too far, where women aren't being ladylike anymore. They're kind of being like the worst aspects of men. Abortion is the leading cause of death in the USA. 1 million not guns. So it's sickening to see how liberals will use the murder of 20 children to promote an unconstitutional gun grab when they openly support over 2,700 lives snuffed out daily through abortion. Yeah, that's definitely true. They stand on the graves of kids like at Sandy Hook and stuff like that because they're like so stuck in science, they don't see abortion as murder. And this is like the one aspect where I think the right side of things gets a sense of moral superiority, because the moment you acknowledge that it starts at conception, it's then you start to look at things being like, oh my god, now it's genocide. So the whole thing with blacks killing a whole generation of kids through abortion in New York, where you have a year where more kids were killed than born, that's insane. Anti-war movement, 2007, 2012. Anti-war liberals, but only when Republicans are president. That's a great point, but that's because they feel like they have reasons. The Republicans, the Republicans seem to have gotten those wars in Afghanistan and Iraq through fear, where it was, there are these bad guys, they're going to come get us, we got to do this. And then the side quote was, oh, well, we're there for oil. They kept saying the oil thing, and there were other reasons, though, too. There was opium. I'm sure we wanted... And as far as Gaddafi, we wanted regime change and everything, but that might have been on Obama's watch. And that's the thing I was going to say, is under Democrat rule, it's always, we're going to free these guys. We're going to rescue them. We're going to spread some democracy. And that's the difference, where the Republican, which is when in my other video, I think I mentioned the thing about kindergarten and taking the kids at the early developmental stage, where it breaks the bonding between child and parent, and then you have these kids who have mommy daddy issues all their life, so they start to look for it from government. The liberal plays the mother government, the Republican plays the father government. And that's kind of what this plays on, where the one side can say, oh, well, I'm the fatherly government, we need to go to war to protect you guys. And the other one is the caring, nurturing, we're going to save the day. Someone over there is in trouble, because they tried it with the Coney 2012 thing, and that didn't pick up traction. They want, Syria, that's what we're doing. Libya, that's what we did. So that's the main difference between those. Liberal argument playbook. Use these tactics when debating an informed conservative. Ignore facts that hurt your position when that doesn't work. Say it's Bush's fault. When that doesn't work, call them racist and run away. Note, if facts continue to come your way, simply repeat steps 1, 2, and 3. Kind of like circular logic. Where's the logic part? Yeah. There's definitely circular logic in a lot of their debates, but we've all seen this. Some people say I'm really stupid, really. Here's how stupid I am. I was hired by over 69 million voters who didn't even do a routine background check on me. I'm doing a lousy, stinking job with a record number of people out of work. I gave guns to Mexican drug gangs. I kill innocent people all over the world with drone strikes, and I decide which laws I'm going to enforce and which ones I won't. I've doubled the deficit, I've ruined our healthcare system, and yet I still stand an excellent chance of being rehired. That's how stupid I am. Now how stupid are you? Well, he obviously got reelected, but now we just need to see if he's going to leave office or not. Believes in Jesus, not giving to the poor, abstaining from judging others, or pacifism. I don't get the giving to the poor thing, unless if that's meaning the assuming the welfare thing, abstaining from judging others. How do you know she's judging anyone? And we seat wars under both sides, so that's not a very good one. White liberals are the most racist people there are because they put blacks in boxes and insist that they think one way, and if they don't, they attack them as illegitimate, all while denying their policies destroy blacks. Dr. Ben Carson. That's definitely true. And I kind of wondered if it's crazy to me that, that it seemed that there were people who somewhat voted for Obama because they thought he symbolized progress towards the civil rights and black people being in certain positions and everything. I think we can all say that happened. So I really wondered if the same thing was going to happen for Dr. Ben Carson, and if you would have, and I think he's great. I like the way he talks, even though he's very quiet, and because I don't think it needs to be this all the smoke and mirrors bullshit, but I don't see people gravitating towards him. People actually are gravitating towards Bernie Sanders. It's mind-blowing, and maybe they do actually believe in free stuff, but who knows? But kudos, Ben Carson. Comparative socialism, elected by the people. He was a community activist with no tangible government experience. He took control of industry, implemented socialist programs, adopted and perpetuated a supremacist attitude, and promised positive and significant changes for the criticism. Yep. And this is one of the things where you've had this I realized the totalitarian tiptoe has to go with both feet. It has to go with the left foot and the right foot. And that's why Bush was very Nazi-like, obviously with his grandparents working with the Nazis. And so it's carried through. And because of the state that Bush left it in, though, and heading towards socialism with the social welfare programs which were started, it's only going to go this way. Like, that's the thing with the Donald Trump and the border thing, where if you look at it, it's like, okay, well, you don't want to do these things, but what's the better solution? Because first off, if you don't have a closed border, you don't have a country. So we're going more towards globalism with this move, and the left seems to just see it from an emotional standpoint, and they don't see it as like, okay, we're kind of like, this is dissolving our country, like, and maybe ignorance is bliss on that issue, but, so I get the Donald Trump Hitler comparisons, and I think it's crazy that you have some people, on the, like, InfoWars, Alex Jones side of things, where they're standing behind Trump, where he's saying, like, alright, we're gonna have to put these people in camps, run through them, whatever, and I don't know if they're just so happy to feel like the FEMA camps are going to be used on someone but them, that they're, like, seeing right past that. But I really feel like there would have been someone in the truth movement who would, like, hop behind this and be like, okay, well, we've heard they were using these camps on the homeless. Now I assume they've been using them on the illegal immigrants. now they're going to, like, Trump is, like, we need to get these things shut down. And I also saw a thing where Dick Gregory was saying that there is no more FEMA, where it's only Homeland Security now. And Dick Gregory normally isn't wrong, so there's something going on with all of this that I have a bad feeling about. History is clear, the facts are certain. Who started the KKK? Who supported the KKK? Who will create Jim Crow laws? Who enforced them? Who arrested MLK? Who opposed civil rights legislation? Who fought against the black rights vote? Democrats, that's who. Don't you think it's time to get off the Democrat plantation and think for yourself? Yes, this is definitely true. This is why the KKK rallied for Obama. They didn't care that he's half black. They support the policies. Conservative facts. Where the police looking for the Boston Bomber Marathon. Story below. University of Mobile Coach. There were bomb-sniffing dogs before the bomb went off. Conservative facts. Just like facts. No, this is true. There was a drill going on. There's always drills that coincide where you had, stuff in place for 9/11 when that was going on. So, conservative logic. Life is precious until it's born. You're free to speak. Well, I mean, you could reverse that one. Liberals fucking don't want, like, they'll kill you when you're a child, and then when you're a child, they just want to give you the bare amount of everything. They want you in their school system eating their amount of allotted food, and, they'll ban a soda if it's too big, and you're free to speak unless if you say something we don't like. That police state was going on at Ferguson and everything, so again, this goes under both parties. The police state's an issue, regardless. Smoking weed makes you a criminal, but stealing billions gets you a bonus. Yeah, we should shut down, decriminalize drugs, do what, oh god, what's that country? That will come to me later. We don't want government involved in healthcare unless it's healthcare we feel entitled to. That's the thing. If you're going to shut down any of these entitlement systems, you kind of got to find a way to run them out to the people that have already paid into them. Conservatives, what the media says we look like, what the NAACP says we look like, what NOW says we look like. I don't know what NOW is. What Occupy Wall Street says we look like. What the president says we look like. What we really look like. That's a good one. What if Republicans and Democrats are the same party and they've had total control of the government this entire time? This is definitely true. It's definitely a two-headed monster as far as on the upper echelons of things. But I believe the American people are looking for someone. Now, the thing I want to point out about this, though, is that at least, like I was saying earlier, the extremist end of the Republican side of the government, which is the freedom, basically everyone has a farm and just, it is to themselves and can act among themselves with very limited government enforcing, say, a common law. Basically the Rand Paul-esque utopia idea. And then, again, on the other side of the thing, you have the socialism idea. And unless if it's socialism, like I said, enforced like a Kickstarter type thing, it can't be enforced because then you're just, again, using the same tools you say you're there to protect from. You can't be providing for people at gunpoint and try to claim moral superiority along the way. I believe the American people are looking for someone to speak the truth. Ted Cruz. Out of 51 statements analyzed by PolitiFact, Ted Cruz only had one statement that was rated true. PolitiFact has also been looked into, though, as far as their bias. You know, again, all they'd have to do is say one of the words means some code. The other one is Snopes. Snopes is bought and owned by, oh, what's his name that funds, Black Lives Matter? The billionaire. I can't think of anything. The government wants government to tell people who they can and can't marry. Thinks healthcare is fascist. Yeah. Healthcare is fascist, and the government shouldn't be telling people who they can and can't marry. Yeah, I don't. Planned Parenthood logo and aborted babies. You know, and this is the thing. This is what they take out of these people. They are people. Democrats now and then. 1861. It's my right to force other people to work my field. 2012. It's my right to have other people pay for my health care. Yep. So you're against private ownership of guns. Well, then who needs these when you already have these? Think about it. This is one of the best gun ones I've seen, because this is true. If you're going to argue that no one should have guns, that's why we have the police and everything like that, then you should get rid of your fire extinguisher, because we have a fire department, and you can just sit there and watch your house burn while you wait for them to come. Liberal Logic 101. So this is Joe's optic. He, in 2012, Joe lied and claimed Mitt Romney took his health insurance away. The liberal media jumped all over Joe's lie and treated it as the gospel truth. Joe's lie helped re-elect Barack Obama, who has since taken the health care insurance away from over 4 million struggling Americans. Thanks a lot, Joe. I hope you're happy. Yeah, well, I think whoever got in office, there was going to be a health care bill anyway. Excuses conservatives make when facts prove them wrong. Liberal media bias, blame game, attack on science, personal attack on source, conspiracy theory might be wrong. Yeah, I wonder if I wonder if that was actually compiled from any sort of data or not. Attention conservatives, you know as well as I do that the recession began in 2007 to 2008, an entire year before we took the current president took office. Under George Bush, blaming Obama for ruining the economy is like trashing your apartment and then yelling at your roommate when he comes into well, this is the thing. Presidents on all ends sign things in retroactively, so there's aspects of Obamacare that aren't even going into effect until the next president gets into office. That's how these laws work, and this is preying on public ignorance for that. I've never been able to understand why a Republican contributor is a fat cat and a Democrat contributor of the same amount of money is a public-spirited philanthropist. That's kind of true. They talk about the one way and the other another. Progressive Guild Advisory System and required quotas. Elected official, prison employee. Yeah, this kind of is how these people see the world. Fox News comparing it to the Nazis, kind of appropriate when, Bush was in president. Two schools of thought. This is interesting because, again, it shows Frederick Douglass was a Republican, admired the Founding Fathers, respected the Constitution, wealth creation, capitalist, defender of liberty, statesman, welfare economy, pro-choice school, entrepreneurial spirit, and shows Obama's ideas towards things, which are the complete opposite, but they are the ones you see in society nowadays, which is very scary. Fox News presents two sides of the same issues, the basic far right side and the factless, crazy, dishonest, angry, ignorant, regressive, corporate, far right side. The extremist, the thing I'm realizing more and more, though, is because I don't see the straw man they build. Like some of the times when you hear them talk, you would expect to see like a Klansman out of American History X standing up there, like with the Bible in one hand and a gun in the other, like looking like a conservative, but it being like a Marilyn Manson concert to some extent. You know, gun in the one hand, Bible in the other, and you don't see it. You see Trump say things like, well, I think we should ban all Muslims coming in until we get this all sorted out. You know, like he fumbled through that statement. It wasn't like Hitler at a speech being, you know, screaming it at people like, oh, we're gonna... So I don't see the straw man, and that's what I feel like has drawn me towards the conservative ideologies of that I just want to be left alone. Like, you know, I want to be able to have a little bit of land, not have the government want anything from me, be able to grow some food, have a gun in case anything goes wrong, and chill out. I think that's I think there's a group of extreme leftist hippies that like want the same thing, or they did in the 60s. But now you gotta be a conservative to want to be a hippie from the 60s? This shit it makes no sense, because on the left there's a bunch of Nazis right now that pose as hippies. The experts agree gun control works. This shows it. I mean, these people who want gun control and are out there like, oh, we need to get the guns from crazy people's hands. We need everyone to be safe. This, and that. It's like, all right, well, do you know all these fucking madmen in history also wanted these things? So you're like on the same page as the Nazis and Castro and Stalin. And it makes you wonder, like, I'm sure back then all those people were like, oh my god, someone's getting hurt, we need to get this in. Same mentality. Did it end well? No. And for you to not see that, that's American exceptionalism right there. I do not believe in taking away the right of a citizen for sporting, for hunting, or for home defense, but I do believe that an AK-47, a machine gun, is not a sporting weapon or needed for defense of the home. Guns. This is true. You, all of the important people, and that's the thing, all the important people who tell you we need to take your guns, they all pay someone to stand next to them with a gun. They don't even do the shooting themselves. They're paying someone to. I mean, it's so crazy. It's like the mob going to a bunch of peasants and being like, we're going to take the pitchforks and all this from you. Like, right-wing gun Yeah, this again, okay, so throw out your fire extinguisher. If someone's breaking into your house, you can't contact the military or the CIA. How long does it take police to respond in some cases? And yes, you have laws that say that you can have a gun. And the educational system, I don't know, that must just be a low blow in there. New York, legal. New York, banned. Yeah, that was the thing about the ammo thing, where it ended up not really making much sense in some cases. But it shows they'll even ban what sodas you can have or can't. Bureaucracy in Obama equals more abortion, same-sex marriages, taxes, gun regulations. Yep. I don't always watch Fox News, but when I do, it's on Comedy Central. Yeah, this I agree with, Because I'll tell you what, I don't even watch much Fox News, but I can tell you that the mindset of what they represent, a lot of people have gotten from Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert. Liberal, how my friends see me, how my family sees me, how I see myself, how libertarians see me, how Republicans see me, how it really is. Yeah, except that these are snotty people, though. Hypocrisy, demanding the government stay out of your bedroom and womb while at the same time demanding the government pay for your birth control and abortions. Yep. Get good jobs, get good grades, we'll give your money to those who didn't. Yeah, that appears to be the mentality. The trouble with our liberal friend is not they're ignorant, it's just that they know so much that isn't so. I think that's true on both sides. You have, false flag operations, psyops, and Hillary's compliments had foresight to marry a womanizing hillbilly named Clinton, a woman who managed to avoid jail after publicly committing numerous crimes. What more can he ask for a Democrat? That's true, and it's part of why I can't believe she's still campaigning. Hires only white lawyers, not racist. Tea Party has higher percentage of blacks than the U.S. Congress. Racist. Yeah, I never understood how. That's just their go-to word. Sky politely disagrees with homosexual activists. Hate crime. We should not, however, discriminate against persons who define themselves as homosexuals. Dan Savage calls Christians vile and disgusting names. Free speech. I wish the fucking Republicans were all fucking dead. Yeah. That you saw, after Piers Morgan and Alex Jones debated, where you would have these talk show hosts being like, afterwards being like, oh, I wish someone had a gun so they could blow his head off. And it's like, these people are sincere when they're saying this. And when you approach them on it and you're like, oh, you're really saying you want someone else to kill this person? Like, how heartless are you? Oh, that was just a joke. They don't mean it. They're the most disingenuous people because they believe in double standards. Liberal Logic 101, Navy SEALs, risk their lives to kill Obama. I mentioned this. Risk their lives to kill Osama bin Laden. Obama takes the credit. George W. Bush, economy sucks 3 years after he's left office. Obama blames him. Yep. Liberal, at what age did you choose to be heterosexual? Conservative. Roughly the same age Mexicans decided to start preferring Mexican food. Unless, of course, you believe that they're genetically predisposed to liking it, then, of course, that case, you're a frickin' racist dude. This is a Republican in the 1890s. This is a Republican in the 1960s. This is a Republican today. This is a Democrat in the 1890s. This is a Democrat in the 1960s. This is a Democrat today. Any questions? Requires background check through multiple government databases. President, no background check. Which one is more dangerous? Yeah, I still can't believe he has a social security number from a dead man. Abortion, making your right to make your own medical choices absolute and cannot be denied. Obamacare, because the government needs to make medical choices for you even if you don't want them to. Liberal logic. Point to the use of private jets, SUVs, and luxury homes as the cause of global warming, then go back home in their private jets and SUVs to their luxury homes. Yeah, that's definitely true. You're being suspended for wearing such an offensive shirt. Support wounded warriors. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize Che Guevara, the guy in the shirt that you see all the time, he was a communist, he was a racist, and he killed tons of people, and I understand he's a revolutionary icon, but again, he it supports this leftist idea of might makes right. We're going to turn the guns on everyone who doesn't see our idea of this utopian revolution idea, that they can't point to anything and say, well, I want it to be something like that. Like, there's nothing else they can point to and say, well, they have a better system. We want this, we want... Like, they point to these little pieces when they don't understand how it all intersects. And it's chasing after a utopia. Liberals claim to want to give a hearing to other views, but then they're shocked and offended to discover that there are other views. William F. Buckley, Jr. Yes. Eagle's eggs. Destroying one is punishable by $250,000 or up to 2 years in prison. Not only is she illegal to kill, liberals want to force taxpayers to pay for her to be killed. That shows you how fucking crazy the government is. That we will imprison someone over destroying eagle eggs, but we kill human eggs. So we're obviously in some sort of dystopic death cult. Republican, the anti-slavery party of Martin Luther King Jr., Frederick Douglass, and Booker T. Washington, which stands for liberty, personal responsibility, and love of country since 1854. That is true. Stand your ground. Who needs a gun to help stand? Standing with a gun means standing in blood surrounded by injury and lifelessness. Standing requires strength, and there's no strength that comes from killing another person. These killers were not strong in anything but prejudice and violence. Madison Kimmery. This is, and I understand the point of this, all the emotional heartstring pulling, but again, are we going to have children run the countries? Like, is this what we should do? We should get our legal and political advice from children? The media spinning race in America. Barack Obama's parents, black father, white mother. Mr. Obama self-identifies as being a black man. George Zimmerman's parents, white father, Latina mother. Mr. Zimmerman Mr. Zimmerman self-identifies as being a Hispanic man. The media calls Mr. Obama America's first black president and presents Mr. Zimmerman a white racist. Any questions? Yeah, that shows you the media's got... Again, so the idea that the media has institutional bias, it's obviously they seem to think white people are bad because they're going to go as far as portraying a Hispanic man as one to fit the narrative that they're trying to push on people. And then call a 17-year-old teenager a baby and a defenseless child the whole way through, demeaning black people in the whole process. It's insane. Obama is not a brown-skinned anti-war socialist who gives away free health care. You're thinking of Jesus. I don't know how Jesus was a socialist. Jesus didn't think you should take from people at gunpoint, and then I don't know, he did some miracles, but he wasn't, like, in bed with insurance companies and all. Like, it's so crazy. This is that arm twisting I told you about, where it's like, oh, we're gonna say the Bible's bad, and that, you know, all this other stuff, and then when we want to, we're gonna misinterpret it and try to bend your wrist with it. And it also shows that, as I said, they compare Obama with a religious icon all the time. Oh, you think that Nazis are like capitalists, right-wing conservatives? Repeat after me. National Socialist German Workers' Party. Yeah, and the thing is it's very interesting because we are a very nationalist country. We've been losing it, but we were. You know, you had the Star-Spangled Banner at every sports game. Kids at school would have to say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. And we are a socialist country because we have all these social welfare programs and everything. So both parties have been bringing us in this direction. Political operative. What society thinks I do, what my parents think I do, what the other campaigners think I do, what the volunteers think I do, what I think I do, what I actually do. Yeah. Conservative Logic 101. No tax dollars for pregnancy prevention. If that leads to unwanted pregnancy, no tax dollars for pregnancy termination. If that leads to childhood poverty, no tax dollars for teaching dependency. If that leads to embracing a life of crime, take all of your tax dollars for incarceration termination. Isn't it obvious who's really making bad choices? I think it's crazy from the liberal side of things that they see a world where people are so stupid that you need to take care of them in the bedroom, you need to manage their sex life for them and whether they can get pregnant or not. Then, if they fuck up on managing that, then they're going to be there to kill the child, because if that child gets born because they fucked up in the first place, then the child's obviously going to be fucked up the rest of their lives because they're fucking up all the other systems in the education, and then they're going to get locked up. Like, they're basically, I mean, think about that approach. With that, like, that's their mindset. That, and maybe it's why it has such an elitism to it, because they rationalize that they're the golden ones and that they're all special and that everything's great, and that all these other people that they need all of these death cult programs for are because everyone's going to be fucking useless. Like, I forget who it was where they said to a liberal, everything's either a tool or an obstacle. And that's this mindset being shown right here, where you're either a tool for them politically, where they're going to say, well, we need your money because we're going to help you and this and that, or you're an obstacle where it's like, oh, well, let's just kill them because they're only going to be a problem anyway. The next time your right-wing friend tells you that MSNBC is just as biased as Fox News, ask when MSNBC ever presented Democrat memos as news. Fox News, the propaganda wing of the Republican Party since 2006. Yeah, both sides do this though. They both get press packages from Washington. It started under Bush, but it's been going in under Obama too. And they don't give disclaimers. Bush was questioned about that. Fundamental conservative Christians believe that an embryo in a woman's body is sacred and no one should harm it. But they don't believe that the same embryo, once it leaves a woman's body, should be exempt from execution or going up to war and killing other embryos as long as they're foreign. So if we are specific and stay on topic with this debate, we're trying to decide between us as what age is it appropriate to start killing human beings? Well, you know, and again, this is a thing liberals do where they try to tie, because they don't have individual moral superiority on their issues, they try to tie ones together where it's like, okay, you're pro-life, but you just killed someone in war. And it's like, okay, the apple and an orange. You know, if you're having to go to war with a country to prevent from invading, or, you know, if it's an unjustified war, okay, yeah, you were wrong in the unjustified war. But that doesn't mean we should be taxing everyone for people getting, you know, pregnant in most of the time from bad decision making, and then helping them end a life. Like, that's someone, and it's, oh, God. Republican Jesus, for I was hungry and you gave me food, for I was thirsty and you gave me drink, I was a stranger and you clothed me, I was naked and you clothed me. Wait, what? That's socialism. No, not when you're pointing a gun at someone's head. Oprah's net worth $2.7 billion, but liberals are mad because Mitt Romney, he's worth a staggering $250 million. Rich liberals, if they really lived up to their own values, they shouldn't all be so poor. I always think it's funny, again, when you hear things about this being such an oppressive place for minorities, where it's, I say the thing, the 3 O's kind of prove it doesn't, where you had OJ who showed how the legal system works. It's a game. It's not a fair system. It's you know, in some cases, but it's a game where things are drawn from conclusions based on evidence put forward, and he got away with murder. And, from writing books afterwards being like, well, if I did do it, like, there's something wrong with that whole thing. And I think everyone at the end of the day thinks he might have done it, or might have at least known who did it or something. But there's definitely more to that story than what we're being told. Either way, he showed you can get off with murder. Obama, the second O, who is the president of the free world and being on the UN and everything, he is a world leader from America. And Oprah, who has this entertainment billions, basically. She has gotten so much wealth as a black woman, nonetheless. And if things are so oppressive for women and blacks, and then how did Oprah do it? Like, there are exceptions to this, where I don't see how you can say this thing is here everywhere. I mean, there are individual circumstances, definitely. There definitely are. But on a institutionalized level, no. Liberals or conservative. Gives out lots of free stuff. Vehicles powered by fossil fuels. Now with magic leaves the color red. Works only one night a year. Only children believe in his power. Old white men. Does not believe in rewarding bad behavior. Is a maker, not a taker. Big supporter of using coal. Employs lots of skilled labor. Establishes workshop in a land with no government. Conservative. Why stop at $15? Why not raise the minimum wage to $100,000? Why not? Why not pay people in cocaine and unicorns? And this is the thing, and I feel like because the right doesn't really have a comedian like this on the level of a Jon Stewart. I mean, there's Steven Crowder, he's really funny, but not anyone on that being put out there like that, where Jon Stewart makes the point. Offering to pay everyone, these minimum wages and just jumping it up rather than solving these problems with other solutions, you might as well pay people in cocaine and unicorns because there's debt attached to this money and there's no way to ever pay it off. So it is what you believe it is. It's a fucking rigged system, and they're just saying the rigged system is starting to run out, so let's just run it to the max. Hollywood liberals make fortunes glorifying violence and making violence look acceptable, and then blame conservatives for guns. Yep. Shuts down government to kill Obamacare, enrolls family in Obamacare after wife quits working banking job. Yeah, because what else would he do? These are all shoes of people who obediently waited to vote the Nazis out of power. Yeah, it's not that conservatives don't care. We do. We just have different answers than liberals, and it's a difference of mind, not of the heart. Tom Selleck. And that's what I was just mentioning before. Different solutions. Tolerant liberals, tolerant unless you totally agree with them. I notice that you keep referring to Trayvon as child. Is English not your first language, or are you a posturing imbecile? Yeah, this is what I was saying. The Trayvon Martin thing, making him out seem like a defenseless baby the whole time is not how you should treat a 17-year-old. Rights don't change just because technology advances. Definitely true. I thought when we elected a black president, we were going to get a black president. This BP oil spill where I want a real black president, and I want him in a meeting with BP CEOs where, he lifts up his shirt and you can see a gun in his pants, and he's like, motherfucking problem here, somebody gets shot in the foot. Typical elitist liberal. So the left's view of a real black man is a gangster thug, or at least Bill Mayer is open about his racist views. Other liberals should keep these opinions in their heads and not pretend to care about blacks. This is definitely true, and you see this with Ben Carson, where he gets called a coon, or they say if any, black guy supports Donald Trump, he's like an Uncle Ruckus character. We all need to love and respect cultures and religions, not Christianity. Believes in freedom of speech unless it offends her. All corporations are evil. Devout religion. Apple. Protest 1%, except Steve Jobs, Michael Moore, movie stars, or Democratic billionaire politicians. Celebrates diversity, except conservative straight white people. Hates capitalism, goes to private liberal art school. Yep. We're going to need more closely at the glorification of all that glorifies guns and violence. Yeah, and that's the thing, is he will point the finger on one hand and then go and try to rally support from these people on the other, and it makes no sense. Adam Lanza shot his mother, then stole 3 of her guns. This one just shows all the 41 laws were broken, and people think that putting another gun law in place when 41 of them are already broke in the process is going to prevent this from happening when it comes to school shootings. So you stopped eating at Chick-fil-A because the owner of the company thinks homosexuality is wrong. Tell me when you're going to stop buying gasoline because the owners of OPEC put homosexuals to death. Liberal news anchor makes $12 million a year, can call business owners who make $1 million a year greedy, selfish, with a straight face. Yeah, that's true. Voting Republican. I vote Republican to keep foreigners, minorities, women, socialists, gays, and liberals from ruining my life. I vote Republican to keep this moron from realizing I'm the only one ruining his life. I don't know any Republicans that look like that, though. Maybe it's just where I live. But again, I think that's their straw man. That's, just to understand why I'm conservative. This goes through all the things about the Democrats, Planned Parenthood supporting them, KKK. Only in America can you be pro-death penalty, pro-war, pro-unmanned drone bombs, pro-nuclear weapons, pro-guns, pro-torture, pro-landmines, and still call yourself pro-life. And that is the last one. So, I think we have seen, though, that there is a view painted by one side that's kind of a little more extreme than the other. And that, again, really complex policies cannot really be done justice in these little memes, and it just makes people sort of, when Rachel Maddow said the thing about welfare and dog whistle racism, they kind of try to tie that to a lot of these topics by making it just about thinking about things in a, oh, well, this means this, so yes, this means this, so no. And things are a lot more complex than that, and these things definitely don't really help on either side, but I see them get used a lot as sort of bully tactics, which I don't think is good. So, I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. I will see everyone later.